We all love a character straight out of a fantasy novel, but there is one character that never really gets painted in a positive light, and that is the trolls. They have been made part of films and games, and are usually pitted against the protagonist as somewhat of an obstacle that they have to cross. Like a guardian, perhaps, to somewhere that we're not supposed to see. Welcome back to Damaged by Design. Today we're going to talk about the history and the origins of trolls. Trolls are some of the most mysterious and magical beings in Nordic legend. These things have served as inspiration for many authors, but yet, could any of these fairy tales and stories possibly be true? Have there ever been such things as these Norse creatures? What legend or actual events served as the basis for these things? Do trolls even have a home? Or do they all just live under a bridge somewhere? You know the old saying about not burning bridges? We like to use this term in reference to rebuilding relationships or friendships, maybe. But when it comes to trolls, it's said that you should never rebuild a burnt bridge. That bridge was burnt for a reason, possibly to keep us away from the trolls. Although intriguingly, these monstrous figures from Norse mythology have inspired the designs of a number of important buildings in Norway. Several Norwegian folk tales date back hundreds of years. Even books written as far back as the 1300s contain the first documented accounts of troll legends. And I'm sure that you must by now have seen the new movie that came out recently. It for sure had me immersed in the folklore. The true Norwegian stories about trolls are presented in a very different way compared to the kind of trolls that we all grew up reading about. Stories may have you to believe, but none of the real trolls like to sing or dance, and they don't all eat people. But trolls in the Norwegian folklore are fantastical beings, said to inhabit places like dark, remote caverns and rocks, maybe caves. They don't socialize much with humans or any other beings, and usually live in small groups. More often than not, they live by themselves. Legends about trolls paint them as sinister, dangerous creatures who live in remote areas. You may be thinking, what does a troll look like? The looks and the personality traits of trolls vary quite widely across folklore. The troll folklore often describes these fantasizing beings as ugly giants with huge noses and bulging eyes. Trolls are a common theme in both Norse mythology as well as Scandinavian folklore. Their hideous appearance is one thing they all have in common. Some are even thought to be giants. Others are described as dwarfs. However, there are also others that have been described as having more than one head. The historical context for trolls is lacking a little due to the oral translations of most Norse mythology. As a result, the tales over the years have become entwined with similar stories. All of the recollections of mysterious beings from various lost cultures over time seem to have been bundled into one pot. And I don't know about you, but I quite enjoy sifting through the remains to see what we can recover from it. A common belief across many stories is that they are afraid of thunder and also the ringing of church bells. Most commonly known is the theory that when exposed to sunlight, these mysterious beasts are supposed to turn to stone, becoming some kind of petrified mud fossil. Events in our history have shown us that there have been events where animals as well as trees have become instantly petrified following some kind of catastrophe. This theory could describe how things like mountains, lakes, craters and rocks came to be. The popular conception of trolls as supernatural beings who reside in ancient ruins has influenced the way people view them. Some trolls are quite human-like, in that they form families and cultures, while others are said to be completely different in that they prefer to just be on their own and isolated. Legend has it that trolls emerge from the depths of the forest and kidnap humans, mainly children, taking them away with them to their hidden woodland dwellings. It could even be argued that the fact that church bells scare away trolls may not simply be coincidental. There are old myths that tell of trolls who represented the old Norse religions while having battles with the Christian gods. Trolls appear in multiple accounts throughout history. The troll myth states that there are at least two distinct categories of trolls throughout folklore. These troll-looking ogre-like giants have become very well known over time, even going by the name Trogers sometimes. They say that this race of evil beings has been at odds with the gods since the beginning of time. There was a widespread belief that Trogers turned against Christians after the religion was introduced into their world. They attacked all of the priests and desecrated every religious building that they could find. And not only those, but there are also troblins. Troblins are another subspecies of trolls. They are usually stereotyped as trolls from Scandinavia. They are considered to have been social within their tribes and to have formed families, despite their preference for isolation in many cases. They take pleasure in causing difficulty for humans, especially over the eve of Christmas. Norse folklore describes little troblins and trolls as breaking into people's homes on Christmas Eve to have festivities. The stories of trolls depict them as not being the smartest creatures around. There was a tale of a young boy, the son of a poor farmer who needed to sell wood from his forest so that they could make ends meet. Following the failure of his first two sons, who had been terrified away from the forest by the trolls, the third son ventured there himself, armed with nothing but a slice of cheese to prevent him from starving. After encountering a troll, the boy somehow convinced it that he possessed special abilities and that he could teach the troll these abilities. The troll was duped by this and thought of the boy as some kind of a wizard. And so, out of respect for the boy's magical power, the troll offered to assist him with the wood cutting. The troll then welcomed the youngster back to his house for dinner after a hard day of labour. While preparing the fire for dinner, the troll gestured at two enormous buckets and he asked the young man if he could fill them for him. After realising that he couldn't possibly carry such heavy buckets and worried that the troll might see that he indeed wasn't magical, the child said that those buckets were simply too tiny and that it would be a waste of his powers. And so instead the troll went to obtain the water himself while the boy kept the fire going. Once it was ready, The boy suggested that maybe they could have an eating competition. They stuffed himself as much as possible, but the boy had hidden his backpack under his shirt. He was sneaky, filling it with food, and when it was full, he cut a hole in it and pretended to keep eating. And then, when the troll was completely stuffed and unable to eat anymore, the boy told the troll that when he was younger, his father had cut a hole into his belly so that he would never get full. And this is how he was able to out-eat the troll. Obviously, this was a lie. But as we know, the troll wasn't that bright, and being so greedy and wanting to out-eat the boy and win the competition, the troll reached for the knife and cut out a hole into his own stomach, foolishly thinking that this would help him win the competition and in future eat as much as he wanted. This of course led to the troll's death, and after the troll's death, the boy looted the house, stealing the treasures that the troll had collected, and then he returned back home. And so the farmer was then able to pay all of his bills, thanks to his son who had taken all of this gold and silver from the troll's home. Now this is only a story, naturally, but you can see how the themes of debt leading to deceit followed by stealing and even murder seem to be scattered throughout these kind of tales. Some folklores claim that the massive rocky outcrops in mountains seen in locations around our world are the result of trolls and their transformation into stone when exposed to sunlight. There are numerous locations in Norway that take their names from the legendary trolls and mythical animals. There is also a well-known troll who is a female deity. Several myths and folk tales describe a lovely young woman with the head and body of a human, but with the tail and hoofs of a cow. Legend has it that you can find her in the mountains or forests in southeastern Norway. The trolls in folklore are thought to be very narrow-minded, but there are some trolls that have a fearsome reputation for violence. According to legends, these cunning individuals would entice victims into the sea, and while in a trance-like state, the victims would then lay down and drown themselves. Now that last description, that one gave me shivers. Kinda like the Medusa legend, only without the snakes. But what do you think? Did trolls actually exist? Do they still exist? In my opinion, time and history have been distorted and altered over the years, as we all know very well. There have been some strange creatures that have existed in the past, but sometimes an overactive imagination can exaggerate these elements when hearing such myths and legends. But something brought these creatures into reality. Who knows, maybe all of them are sleeping in the mountains right now, and one day they may awaken to be reintroduced to the human population. All you really need to know and take away from this video is to survive any kind of a troll, you need to stay alert. You need to only search for them in the daylight. And you need to bring some church bells with you. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, smash the thumb, and make sure you hit the bell on your way out. And until next time, it's goodbye from Damaged by Design.